Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome you all to the Institute of Directors. It's exactly 3 years ago that we launched the Hands Off Our Packs campaign at St Stephen's Club in Westminster. And when we started, we thought it was just going to be a 6-month campaign, because at the time the government was talking about having a public consultation. Well, they did have a consultation. It was a 16-week consultation. And there was a record response. Over 650,000 people responded to that consultation. The Hoops campaign alone contributed over 265,000 petition responses. And in total, there were over 425,000 people opposed to plain packaging, a 2/3 majority. And at that point, we thought we'd actually won the campaign because plain packaging appeared to be off the agenda. For reasons known only to David Cameron and perhaps a few officials in the Department of Health, they suddenly came out of the closet in November 2013 and announced the Chantler Review, which reported back in April 2014 and recommended, on very little evidence, that they would go ahead with plain packaging. The reality was they were under a lot of pressure from the Labour Party, and you have to ask questions as to why a Conservative-led government would do a U-turn simply because it was put under a little bit of pressure by the Labour opposition. Why a Tory-led government simply rolled over, I honestly don't know. But it meant that we had to move on to the next phase of our campaign because the government then announced it was going to hold another consultation, this time just over 6 weeks. And that took place in July through to the early part of August last year. And this time, we went out and we got 53,000 people to sign letters to the Prime Minister, which we personally delivered to Downing Street. And on the day that the consultation closed, we handed in 97,000 petition responses to the Department of Health. There were thousands more emails that were associated with our campaign. And we've been waiting since August for the Department of Health to publish its report on that consultation. A few weeks ago, without any warning whatsoever, the Public Health Minister, Jane Ailson, suddenly announced that the government was going ahead with plain packaging. At that point, they hadn't even published their report on the consultation. And maybe this is why, because they finally did publish their report 2 weeks ago. Retail Newsagent last week reported that 99% of the consultation responses are opposed to plain packaging. And this is what Retail Newsagent actually wrote. This is what Retail Newsagent wrote. Westminster is facing increasing pressure to backtrack on proposals to introduce plain tobacco packaging after an overwhelming 99% of respondents to a public consultation were opposed to the legislation. The results of the plain pack consultation released last Wednesday showed the government had received 137,000 responses on the issue. This included 136,000 campaign responses from retailers, lobby groups and unions calling for MPs not to press ahead with standardised packs. And yet despite that, this government is going ahead with plain packaging. Now, what does that tell you about the democratic process? Why do they bother having so-called public consultations if they're simply going to ignore the response of the people who can be bothered to take part? I just want to finish off tonight by thanking our co-host tonight, Parliament Street and Liberal Vision, who co-hosted this event, but especially to everybody who's come tonight. I know plain packaging on the outside appears to be a rather dry subject. I hope, having listened to all the speakers tonight, you'll realise it's not a dry issue at all. Actually, it's a very important one.